Hi there, this is Andrew with Cawood Publishing, and here is a review of our newest book, Monsters of the Dungeon. So this is the 6th book in our monster series, and this is for any RPG. The stat blocks are for 5e. However, we have conversion tables for a few other RPGs, and we'll mention that as we go along here. So this is over 120 monsters for your game. All of the art, the cover and the back cover and all the illustrations are by Travis Hansen. And at the beginning, you have an introduction into using dungeons, some hints for the game masters, and the beginnings of the adventure hooks. So we have one table here, and then with almost every single one of the monsters in the book, you also have another 3 adventure hooks. We also have a party of heroes, 7 NPCs that you could use, 1 for each of the 7 chapters, and each chapter details a new type of dungeon. The first is the Arcane dungeon. So each chapter page you get encounter tables, events, locations, and some advice about running these kind of dungeons. And the Arcane one begins with Brock the Brave, who's a paladin, a young paladin who's leading this party of adventurers. And then we get into more of the creatures. Here is the animated wizard's hat, one of the many constructs. There's a few full page pieces, and this one is detailing the arcane dragon. So this is a spell-casting, shape-shifting dragon. We have an archmage, and then one of the many aberrations. So here we have the Blabberblub. Another construct is the Cauldron of Chaos. We have a time traveler called the Chronomancer. Another aberration, the Oculus. Another one of the aberrations, there's many of them in here. This is the Pillar of the Community. And the Statue of Limitations. This is actually an elemental creature. We have a number of undead. The first one is the Sum of All Tears. We have the Terra Sphinx, which is a much more powerful sphinx than the ones that are in the core books. And then a fiend called the Wall of Zal. The Zagler is another creature here, a monstrosity that kind of can make its way around the dungeon in different ways, squeeze through small spaces. The second chapter is Castle Dungeons. This time the hero mentioned is a wizard. We have a Dark Knight, which is sort of like an anti-paladin. A dungeon crawler creature. An undead fallen soldier. And then we have the Feast of Burden. So a feast that can actually attack the party. It's a kind of aberration that makes itself appear like a feast on a table. We have the Flaming Suit of Armor, another construct. The Forgotten King, one of the many undead. The Gloom Collector. And the Jaded Jailer. We have the Narcissus. So this is an aberration that can basically mimic the form of another creature. So this would provide a lot of interesting challenges for the party. Shady characters. So these emerge from books and bring basically a horror story to life. So they're aberrations that take the form of fictional characters and actually come to life. We have the Throne of Lies. This is what happens if you sit on the Throne of Lies. Third chapter is Manor Dungeons. This time we have a bard as the person in the adventuring party that's highlighted. There's the Cursed Cook, another undead. The Dream Walker. So this creature actually is attracted to the dreams of other creatures, and can use the ethereal plane to enter dreams and experience every moment of another creature's dream. Then the earworm. So this is what happens if the party ends up hearing a song over and over again, sung by this little dragon. You find out what happens. I should also mention that there's magic items, a few of them in this book, and this one is the mention on this page is the Dungeon Ball of Direction. Here we have the Fountain Man, an elemental, and the Gray Hag. We have a couple of hags in here. The Grim Noble, another undead creature. And then the Knick-Knack. There's a few fae here and there mentioned as well. So this one can mimic sounds of different creatures and objects. And the goal of these little creatures is try to steal as many things as possible. Mr. White, another undead creature. And one of the constructs, the Mirror, named after our World of Mirror setting. And then the Scarecase, the Swarm of Chessmen. Twist and Shout, another fae creature. The White Duke. All right, so the next section, the next chapter is the Thieves Guild dungeons. So the NPC mentioned at the beginning is a rogue, of course. And then the Big Relief, another construct, or actually this is an aberration that can come to life. The Ghost Rogue, and the Grunt. So these are muscly giants that are used as muscle by the Thieves Guild. And the magic item mentioned on this page is the Crown of Achievement. We have the House It, another fae creature. And the Illuminus, which actually just appears as a rotting hand carrying a lantern. We have the Jam, one of several oozes. The King Naga. The Lurer. So these fae creatures use their charms to lure other humanoids to death. We have the second hag there, the Nag Hag. And Odo the Alchemist. And we have the Presence of Malice, another aberration. And Rubble Trouble. You also have the Sewer Snake. And the Smoke Monster. The Voluptus Demon. So this fiend uses any means to tempt other creatures. And then the next chapter is for tomb dungeons. So there's a halfling fighter who is the NPC for this section. We have an apprentice necromancer. The Blessed One. They're basically like a holy monk who will protect sacred tombs. We have the Crypt Demon, which does basically the opposite. They haunt these tombs. The Crypt Raider. There's a Cult Warlock. Draugr King. So we had two types in the Underworld book, our Monsters of the Underworld. This one has two more kinds of Draugr. We have Flying Skeletons. The Holy Choir. And the Listener, an aberration that actually can listen to the undead. The Misguided Angel. So we don't just have dark creatures in the tomb section. We have some good creatures as well. There's Skull and Bones. And the Soul Knight. So these celestials are to cleanse dungeon tombs of any evil. We have the Tomb Guardian, who basically protects guardians. And these you could choose, you could have them as any kind of alignment. They wouldn't necessarily be good or evil. Here's the Well of Lost Souls. And then we move to the Wilderness Dungeons. So here, of course, we have a barbarian type, who is the NPC, the Barbarian Queen. We have the Fright Blight. There's a few plants in here. We have the Hornak, which is actually a fiend. The Mist Tree, which is another plant. We have the Octagon, which is a strange monstrosity. And the Sappy Ending, another ooze. And the Slider, this huge monstrosity that drags its body through dungeons. And then we have the Stone Rack, which is so powerful it can smash through dungeon walls and the floors. And then the Thunder Mouse, which appears to be quite harmless, but is definitely something not to trifle with, especially low-level parties. Final chapter in this monsters book is for the mountain dungeons. So we have a dwarf cleric who is the NPC. Then an elemental creature, a whole race of creatures called the Atlans. We have the colossal idol, which is really a tribute to the cover in the original player's book. There's the Deep Shadow, the Doppelbeast, which is an incredibly powerful doppelganger type creature. The Fireballer, the Halfling Zombie, Hammerfall, which is a huge construct built by dwarves. The Skur, one of the many strange aberrations. Tarak the Half-Ogre, who's actually on the cover. And then at the very back, there's a Troll King. And there's also the Master of Dungeons is included at the very end. We have lists of monsters by type and by CR. And here are conversion tables for Pathfinder. We also include conversion tables for OSE and DCC, and we're working on more of those. So there you go. That's Monsters of the Dungeon, over 120 monsters for your game.